Hello everyone. The title of today's episode is Strolling into the Cities of Synchronicity. And so Mr. Within will be looking very in-depth at the concept of synchronicity and also what it means, and if it is something, how should it be utilized? How should it be incorporated in your lifestyle? Before I get into synchronicity and what that means, I want to share a quote by Swami Vivekananda. And the quote says, it's very important for you as a human experience to kind of absorb this quote before I continue on. His quote goes on to say, all knowledge that we have, either of the external or internal world, is obtained through only one method, by the concentration of the mind. No knowledge can be had of any science unless we can concentrate our minds upon the subject. The astronomer concentrates his mind through the telescope and so on. If you want to study your own mind, it will be the same process. You will have to concentrate your mind and turn it back upon itself. The difference in this world between mind and mind is simply the fact of concentration. One, more concentrated than the other, gets more knowledge. It's very important, guys, to understand that we are moments of being, moments of existential attention that are self-aware, and in our moment there is a body alongside anything else that we're considering to be objective. So there is an aspect of receiving our moment which is objective, there's an aspect of receiving our moment which is subjective, and there's an aspect of receiving the moment that is beyond all conception. It is the observer and it is the intention that is keeping everything here. We need to see that it is very important to understand that when we begin to look at knowledge, when we look at the branches of knowledge, it is the eye of your unique conditioned perception and reference point that is perceiving and comparing with everything else. So as if like when you walk in the park for the first time, your eyes are seeing those branches like that for the first time. There's an aspect of concentration there before one shapes knowledge. Before we shape information, how are we looking at the information? Do you know? And so when we look at that, we simply look at our history. We look at how people are thinking. We look at what people are saying. Communication becomes valuable because it suggests the world and the level of concentration the person has. You as a being, by simply being aware of human communication and beginning with yours, will begin becoming more tolerant, and your ears will become empty to clearly receive your moments as they are. You are no longer just comforted by your arrogance of saying you know something and that's it. You are getting the mystic's vision. Gosh, we are so soft compared to some people in Indian culture, in ancient Indian culture. The man, if he felt there was that point in his life after maybe like 70 years of age, he would just go to his family and tell them, I'm going to go and recognize my God consciousness, guys. My unified field theory consciousness. So it's very important to see that that guy would just leave because he would understand that as a human being, all right, there's some amount of time needs to go on maintaining this externality, developing systems, enjoying this form, and, you know, in other words, surfing the waves of life. But another aspect of life is to dive into the ocean and to see what is the absolute nature of this life form. So what that means is many people, when they are given an opportunity, they take it. Do you know? Many people take opportunities which are suggesting realities more than the one they're in, because sometimes the excitement level of your reality becomes little. But the reason it becomes little is because the existential sensitivity has decreased. You have not been gentle for a while. There has been too too much running for a certain amount of time, too much identification with a persona for survival reasons. I mean, it is okay. When you're doing your job, I even suggest don't even think that you're some guy trying to be happy. Just be there, present in the moment of your action, and you will see that you will no longer be lost to an interpretation that is constantly thinking is individual. The moment is not giving you just an individual access of consciousness. It is giving you a collective access of consciousness and an emptiness that makes you realize both of these. So the nature of your observance is the emptiness of your plane of existence, which then dissolves into the manifestation of another plane. And this is simply saying based on the continuation level, because there's some aspects in the concentration of the being to reality in which it's suggesting the whole world. How that person is looking at that idea is suggesting the whole world. There's nothing else you can do unless they look for themselves to see what ideas are acting as pillars for their eyes. Your eyes need no pillars. The eyes of man are limitless like the sky. You are the limited entity of consideration. So if there were two ways to look at life, as if everything, the absolute, was out there and you were stuck here, or by saying your presence is an absolutely existential manifestation of this cosmos. I mean, man, you exist. Gosh. But you exist based on your concentration to how you are identifying and interpreting the forms in your awareness. So let's say it like this. Before, let's say, we get into theories and sciences and scriptures and messages, let us just see that it is the human apparatus which is giving shape. But the intelligence looking through the human apparatus is formless. It is shapeless. And so it has an infinite quality. It has an eternal quality. It has entered the lives of people in those moments where they were completely alone and they asked that question where nobody could ask for them. And they dived into aspects of their being, their potential, their experience, where you thought the nature of you was one-dimensional. This plane of existence is multidimensionally alive. That means you are just a playful existence here. And you must realize that the concept of purpose was man-made, because all cosmos, its purpose was to just be here. And that is what the sages have understood. To be here without the judgment or the interpretation of an individuality that never needed to be there. You see, the freedom is in the experiencer's passage. What that means is we are free not because man did something, but because you could never be lost in one reality. There is an infinite projection the minute a form is here. So what that means is the minute you begin to read those words from the first book you pick up in this world, you will begin to see that you as a life force have an ability to give anything life. Man is such a great creator that he is aware of the creation he is. Do you see this? And so now, guys, by being aware of this context, we can now go into synchronicity. Because synchronicity is the awareness of the creative process which is simultaneously present to you, within you, to the creation process which is simultaneously present. Because an individuality that, if you go in your own room of considered space and time, then it is up to you to get out of that. Because you have considered it. What that means is, it is your ability to very naturally and sincerely engage experience that is suggesting the fluidity of your projections of reality. You must realize, talking about a holographic projection is the holographic projection. Do you recognize? Because any links made to such a concept are void. And so man cannot understand infinity intellectually because it inquires non-linear aspects which are holding the rationality. So what that means is that synchronicity, how it entered my life, was very meaningless. It had no meaning. The coincidences, I knew that I could add 1,000 meanings to them. Do you know? But when I observed it, the meaning was meaningless. Synchronicities are aspects where you see it's like your trust in this story of life suddenly takes you somewhere where it's simultaneous with another sense of trust, which is that where that possibility is. Intuition cannot be entered or understood through concepts such as you looking for psychic phenomena or you looking for a truth that is more of a juicy idea. Juicy ideas are just juicy ideas. What that means is you create personalities of you feeling you have your truth by thinking you have your desire. You thinking right now, you getting all your physical desires met is going to give you satisfaction. But when you look at the nature of this existential intelligence, it is a transient one. So what that means is I could want to be a millionaire, but the minute I look at a relative who just passed away, life has just spoken differently. You begin to see the sensitivity is in where the actuality of experience is. Your greatest search must be your greatest contribution. Your greatest exploration of consciousness must be the greatest contribution to this world. Because this plane of existence, funny enough, is being situated by those who are being born in it. What that means is, as this organism right now, we being as this organism right now, our cells are dependent on the whole system maintaining it, but also the whole system is maintaining on the cells being there. We, as whatever manifestation within this plane of existence, are in the vein of the cosmos in some manner. And as we are, the intelligence of it is greater. The intelligence is one where it shapes. What that means is the moment you go see, you can go buy a lot of clay and become a Japanese clay master by looking at some YouTube videos. You begin to see that you, as a being who has an ability to, let's say, take clay, as it is said in many scriptures where man was made out of clay and given life, you can kind of see, as it was implied, you can see that you can give shape to any clay. But if you get out of the room, the pottery seems like it was never there. Do you see? Your life is the life in your reality. Your vision of how you're alive is what is keeping your reality here. And that requires a very deep self-contemplative study where it's that moment where if you've been in a crowd your whole life, you just walk away from the crowd, go find a place where naturally feels right to you. So you, let's say, go through the forest or somewhere and, I don't know, go to your local park and just walk somewhere where you feel comfortable. And as you do, you recognize comfortable ideas also provide moments of existential comfort. And, you know, comfort must not be lost in the concept of desire, because many people in the West are thinking that comfort is meaning their desire. No. The desire is relevant to the ideology that is trying to survive. You see, the survival of the animal was required. The ape needed to survive until it could stand up. But the minute it stood up, a self-awareness developed where it got a transcendental self-recognition which was beyond shape. As it received this, a sense of divinity approached its life. And so we see back in the day, the mystics and the yogis and people of the Vedic tradition, I find it was very beautiful for me seeing it because they had a hierarchy based on truth, based on absolute truth, not a hierarchy based on the truth of some guy. Do you see this? Even though men communicated, but it was men understood that because man is communicating in higher ways, people are always going to think it's man. So the practice has to come and make it more than the man's words. So what that means is, you by just seeing a YouTube video cannot become a clay master, ceramic master, like that Japanese guy who's been doing it for 30 years. You can see that the experience of that can be attained by how you apply yourself to the experience of making something. Many people see that the realm of desire takes you away out of a synchronistic life, which is implying one of more integration and allowance, spontaneous allowance, is that you are trying to create, it's as if you're creating your first experiences here and you're making beliefs out of them and you're not letting your experience to be more open. You must realize that sometimes we need to let our natural life intelligence, what this natural existential awareness that we are, this moment of being that we are, to just go in life and just be for a little bit. Not think, not try to think. You know, I break thoughts with humor all the time, to be honest. You know, so it's very important to see that the clarity is your sincerity to how you approach. Spiritual practice is meaningless without a drop of sincerity. Because without a drop of sincerity, the drop cannot begin with its actuality. What that means is the actuality of the seeker that is being led by synchronistic signs, in a sense, is not that you're schizophrenic. Oh my God, that is such a wrong interpretation. It's that you are working with how you are aware of ideology in a manner where you are learning and experiencing more about the projections of experience. What that means is the minute you have self-awareness, experience seems to be a projector. It can be turned on and off because you know there is death. But you also know there is life, and there's a significance that is profound, a significance unspeakable, where you begin to see that the synchronicity in your life was simply how things were becoming more than things. To really make this a fruitful talk on synchronicity, I would also like to share what the dictionary definition of synchronicity is too. You know, the dictionary.com definition. The definition of synchronicity, in regards to a psychoanalysis definition, when looking at the dictionary, is the simultaneous occurrence of causally unrelated events and the belief that the simultaneity has meaning beyond mere coincidence. You see? So when we look at what synchronicity means, you as a person might suddenly recognize that you started seeing number alignments. Like there was a time where 1 month. I mean, I do see it all the time, but now I know that that's not the significance. The shape is not the significance of the synchronicity. It is the attention to the experience of the moment, which is significant, which is giving you a limitless ability, in a sense. For a period in my life, suddenly numbers became very significant, but it wasn't numbers. Like I was aware as a being. As a child, I was aware spiritually, because it was as if like my experiential postulates were like that. So I knew what my experience was to some degree. But I did not clearly have access to my own intelligence until the ego kind of faded in a manner which was never there. You see? As if I was projected out of the meaning, which was giving meaning to the synchronicities and to the ideas and whatnot. When your relationship with ideology changes, that's a sign of a greater, or a shift in, let's say, self-awareness. It's a shift in self-awareness. Number synchronicities would happen in a way where I would be in a car driving with my brother, and we'd just be sitting. And while we'd be sitting, I'd tell my brother, hey, oh my God, look, bro, a license plate that has 888. And we had discussed how it was perhaps a sense of attention changing, as if your attention suddenly going to plates that were always there, but you just didn't notice, right? So we were acknowledging and trying to kind of see what it was. And suddenly at that moment, I'm like, yo, bro, look, a license plate 888. And we're like, wow, man, that's interesting. And suddenly we see right in front of that van, another car was there with the license plate 888, you know? So it was like two cars with triple A's. And we were like, all right, so our study has just become a bit more deeper, you know? And simply what I recognize is that synchronicities are opportunities for you to understand how you are more of a mind that is having an experience of body within it, rather than just a body who has a mind, which is so hard to figure out. Gosh, so let's just follow up with these desires. The way you are acknowledging your presence is suggesting your freedom. The greatest presence is not someone, not like a king having his army in front of you. That is not presence. The greatest presence is the man who can let go of things and be in the freedom of existence, empty. And emptiness, not of just letting things go, but letting the ideas of things go. Just being in the moment. You don't have to suddenly get rid of everything and go to India, and at the same time, you don't have to suddenly just forget it and bash it and become the worst enemy of a conscious movement. Synchronicity, guys, is a valuable example, and Mr. Within will be talking about it quite often. Actually, I'm probably going to talk about it quite often, because it is one that is suggesting how man will understand his simultaneous realities, his multidimensionality. We need to understand, guys, that human beings being born, you need to see human beings have gone in regards to their experience, search for greater experience in this life, to a point where they have confronted and acknowledged the physical reality, they've confronted and acknowledged the thought, and they've also confronted that which is observing all of these, which is unspeakable, but is opening and intuitively flowing through how it is kept. So what that means is, when you look at yourself just standing, or perhaps you just hearing this talk, you are just as uniquely how I am as a human being, as a self-sustaining system in which you are receiving your own way of hearing my talk. So we see that you are always creative because you are your own unique view, and so am I. And it is only when we get lost to our agreements and forget to see in how we're disagreeing that society kind of dulls down a bit. But trust me, there's always rebels, you know, rebels in consciousness. We think there's rebels in, we're just acknowledging rebellion like how it was, you know, during the French Revolution or something. We're working with that kind of imagery still. But rebellion can sometimes mean the birth of a child as the newest ambassador of its higher state of consciousness in this world. What that means is we need to take care of our children by giving them an ability to, as they come to this earth plane, as they come to this plane of existence, having an ability to ground themselves and understand life. Guys, nature is not just for the physicality of man. Trust me, the physicality of man, you can just go be still for the rest of your life, and with a certain amount of concentration and focus and awareness, just dissolve out of this individual framework. But nature is more required for who? For the minds of the future generations of us. So Mr. Within is just very, very calmly sitting on the grass, you know, just thinking, okay, what ideas are my kids gonna have? You know, and how am I an aspect of that? And so you see, human communication is more important, because with human communication, we can have world peace, or we can press the button to the end of worlds, end of this physicality, it seems. Man must recognize his technologies have kind of stepped out a bit, you know. It's as if, like, let's say you had a pet turtle, you know. Let's say technology was a pet turtle in which you had it and you put it in one part of the yard, and you're like, you saw it's a sunny day, so you went to get a glass of water and you came back and the turtle was gone. And you were like, wow, technology just changed so fast. And so what that means is that we must not let go of what is naturally in our care. We are creating technology as an external phenomena. We are giving machinery life, and so man is the guiding intelligence of it. You must not just develop compassion for human beings. I think in 1,000 years, some guy is going to come, guys, we need to develop compassion to our robotics, do you know? But it's very important because our robotics must come out of our compassion. The most beginning axioms was me to maintain human intelligence and not to talk about it. What that means is we must teach a humility in the programming of our future that cares for the human experience and is keeping and cultivating and preserving its most natural moments of self-awareness. When you get rid of a park, you're kind of getting rid of an aspect of people's minds. Some people go to the park because they let their mind be it. You go into nature in the forest and it becomes like part of your thinking. And so you begin to see the stillness of the stream is also in the same stillness of how you're going to make your next, perhaps, most crucial decision of your life. It becomes as gentle as the stream. The imagery is not bound to how the idea needs to survive, because the idea is kept there by he who is observing beyond form. Deception is for form. Liberation is still on some level for the idea of you. But the liberated state, which is poetically always being suggested, has nothing to do with words. It's the recognition of you as a life force. You as a life. So some people sometimes get open to these spiritual teachings also, and these significance is perhaps suggested into certain traditions, Zen traditions, in that they let go of their personality, their ego, and suddenly, just in some level, just try doing what this guy was doing who was succeeding. You're not here to be a follower of external reality, but you are here to be a follower of your internal reality where you are also the leader of. So fear is externally relevant, but when you become an awareness more than the object of awareness, there is a freedom there where you know what is here. The knowing is it's as if it's part of the plane, you know? So what that means is that if on one moment you went and you saw that the forest was, there was a forest right beside you and nobody knew about it, and you came and told people, hey guys, there's a forest here. And people were like, forest? Who has time for forest when we're building houses? Can you see that mentality? And, but some people will be like, hey man, what's a forest? I don't even know what a forest is. Tell me what a forest is. And this guy begins to tell you, okay, a forest, man, it's pretty much trees. It's like life structures before we were here. Let's check it out. And so you begin to see that when you go to the forest, it is a change in reality. Sometimes our truths are the truths of our environment, which are being considered as the self is getting an association of what it is and where it is. Psychology is not something that man can get a proper valuation from. Psychology can be used as showing how clean the mirror is or how dirty it is. And so if you are clinging to psychology as ideology rather than searching the existential intelligence in regards to a very compassion and devotion to what? Not to a God that is up there externally, but the God that is the last remaining symbol which you surrender, in which you become an origination of all awareness. What that means is, think of it. God, it is said, and I am speaking very respectfully of these ideas, because I know the value that they keep in regards to activating human experience. All idea has its beauty in how it activates human experience. You see, there is a talk of the God There is a talk when we look at the beauty in the imagery of ancient texts, such as religious texts, when we acknowledge them in such a manner, they have suggested that there is a creator and you are a creation, and that this creator is omniscient, as if we are within it, and it is within everything. And it seems that when there was a messenger for this creator, the messenger told creation, the creator is within you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. So creation suddenly realized that the experience of creator is within creation. So when we look at the human experience being in an illusion, it's as if it is not the only thing being in the illusion. The creator is the illusion. When the creator is the illusion, the individuality understands from such a relationship of ideology that it is the presence of all imagery in the origin of its awareness. So the concept of an it was imagery in omniscient awareness, omniscient presence. And so the knowing of this presence comes not from what the imagery is suggesting you are as a have-to-be individual consciousness, but where the imagery is present in and within, and what is basking. In a sense, the collective is what the individual is always basking within. And so you begin to see that once the story never needed to be in the manner that you were kept in the way you thought you were kept, the storyteller's intelligence was the emptiness where all form came from. So you are not, your intelligence which is present here and now without having to be an ego or an individual identity in the way that psychology is trying to shape it to understand, where science is trying to shape it to understand, you begin to see it is in the letting go of the form through a self-awareness simultaneously presence of a holistic world. And so this is when the pilot of consciousness, who might have for an instant thought that he was navigating this plane as an individual, recognizes he is the plane of existence, and freedom is the existential knowing. And so the unknown and the known have gone to fade in a moment where you have always been here with the absolute. You stand up, synchronicity is you. And so as you see, some moments you had strolled in the cities of synchronicity. You were the origination, you were the designer, you were the architect of the construction that became to even be an association for you. And so become existentially responsible for the greatness that comes from a self-aware, multidimensional being who has an ability to conceive simultaneously in many ways and extract worlds out of it. Because man's communication was no little thing when his inspiration came from all that is. You no longer need to stroll. When all is here, as is. Much blessings and namaste.